Hey there, language listers. Welcome back to the channel where English fluency isn't just a dream, it's a science. Have you ever wondered what really happens inside your brain when you start thinking in English? Why does it feel so hard at first, and then suddenly, like magic, it clicks? Well, it's not magic, it's neuroscience. Today, we're diving into the fascinating science behind thinking in English. You'll discover what your brain actually does when you stop translating and start flowing. So grab your headphones, get in your learning zone, and let's unlock the power of your mind, because understanding this could be the key to speaking English naturally and confidently. Ready? Let's listen in on today's conversation and break it down together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm your host, Jason.
And I'm Julia, your co-host. We're so glad you're joining us today for another exciting and brainy episode.
Ooh, brainy. That's a good word to use today because we're diving into something a little deeper than usual.
That's right. Today we're talking about the science behind thinking in English. What's actually going on inside your brain when you start thinking in a new language?
You might be wondering, why does it feel so hard to switch your thoughts into English? Or why do some people say you need to think in English to become fluent? Well, there's actual brain science behind that idea.
Exactly. In this episode, we'll explain how your brain processes language, why thinking in English helps you speak better, and how you can train your brain to make the switch more naturally.
We'll also talk about what's happening when you translate in your head versus when you just think in English, and why that difference matters.
And of course, we're going to give you simple, practical tips you can use right after listening to this episode, even if you're just starting out.
So, whether you're learning English for work, travel, or just for fun, this episode will help you understand what's going on up here, points to head, and how to use it better.
All right, ready to jump into the science?
Let's do it. All right, let's start with the big question. Why is thinking in English so important for language learners?
Great question. Thinking in English helps you become more natural and fluent. If you're always translating from your native language, it slows you down and makes speaking feel like a puzzle.
Exactly. Imagine this. You want to say something simple like, I'm hungry. But instead of just saying it, your brain first thinks of it in your native language, then translates it into English, checks the grammar, and then finally speaks. That takes a lot of time.
And that's why many learners feel stuck when they try to speak. Their brain is working too hard in two languages. But if you train your brain to think directly in English, you cut out that extra step.
Right. It's like switching from riding a bicycle with training wheels to riding freely. You go faster and feel more confident.
And here's another reason. It helps you understand English faster, too. When you're reading, listening, or watching something in English, you don't need to stop and ask, what does that mean in my language? You just get it.
That's a great point. Thinking in English also improves your pronunciation and sentence structure. Because when you think in English, you start to feel how the language flows naturally.
Yes, it's like your brain starts building English paths, just like it did when you learned your first language as a child.
So, to put it simply, thinking in English helps you speak faster, understand better, and sound more natural. It's a big step toward real fluency.
And the good news is, anyone can learn how to do it. It's not just for advanced learners.
Absolutely. And we're going to show you exactly how in the next segments. But first, let's take a closer look at what actually happens in your brain when you learn and think in a new language. Okay, Julia, now it's time to get into the cool stuff. What's really happening inside our brains when we learn a new language?
Yes. So here's a fun fact. Your brain has something called neuroplasticity. That means it can change and grow by learning new things, including languages.
Right. When we learn English, Our brain is literally building new connections, kind of like roads between different parts of the brain. The more we use English, the stronger those roads become.
And when we don't use English for a while, those roads start to fade. That's why regular practice is so important.
Now, let's talk about the areas of the brain involved in language. One is called Broca's area. It helps you speak and make sentences.
And then there's Wernicke's area. That's where you understand language. So when you hear someone speaking English, that part of your brain is lighting up.
Exactly. And when you're trying to think in English, these areas are both working hard. But here's the thing. If you're translating from your native language all the time, you're also using a third part of your brain that's connected to memory and translation.
That slows everything down. It's like trying to drive through traffic instead of taking a fast highway.
Yes, but when you train your brain to think directly in English, you're building a direct route. No traffic, no translation, just smooth thinking.
It's also important to know that your brain loves patterns. That's why it's easier to remember things like sentence structures, common phrases, and word combinations if you hear or use them often.
Like when you always hear, "How are you?" or "I'm fine, thank you." Your brain recognizes that pattern and stores it.
Exactly. The more you use English, the more your brain says, "Oh, this is important." And it starts saving those words and phrases in long-term memory.
And repetition helps that process. That's why daily habits, like listening, speaking, and reading in English, are so powerful. You're not just learning words, you're changing your brain.
Isn't that amazing? Your brain is actually rewiring itself as you learn English, and the more you use it, the more automatic it becomes.
So if you feel frustrated sometimes, just remember, your brain is doing something incredible. It's learning a whole new way to think and communicate.
Be patient, be consistent, and keep going. You're not just memorizing vocabulary, you're building a new language system inside your brain.
And that system is what will help you think in English, speak more fluently, and understand more naturally. So now that we know how the brain learns language, let's talk about something every learner experiences: switching between languages in your mind.
Yes, this is a big one. Most learners start by thinking in their native language and then translating into English. That's totally normal in the beginning, but it can become a problem later.
Exactly. When you switch from your native language to English, your brain actually has to pause and do a lot of work. First, it thinks of the idea in your own language, then it searches for the English words, then it checks grammar, and then it lets you speak.
Whew, that's a lot of steps. No wonder it feels slow and tiring sometimes.
Right? Your brain is juggling two languages at once, and this constant switching uses more mental energy and often leads to mistakes or hesitation.
Here's where it gets interesting. Scientists call this code switching, and while it's a useful skill, doing it all the time can hold you back from thinking naturally in English.
So the goal is to reduce that back and forth switching. We want your brain to process English directly, without needing a translator in the middle.
That's when you start to feel fluent. You hear English and you just understand. You want to say something and it just comes out in English, without thinking in your own language first.
And it's not just about speaking. It also helps with listening, reading, and even dreaming in English. Have you ever had that experience?
Oh, yes. The first time I dreamed in another language, I was so surprised. But it's a great sign. It means your brain is starting to live in that language.
So switching between languages is natural at first. But our goal is to make English the default setting in your brain when it comes to thinking, speaking, and reacting.
And don't worry, it doesn't mean forgetting your first language. Your brain is smart enough to hold both. You're just choosing to use English more automatically when it's needed.
Exactly. Think of it like switching apps on your phone. At first, It takes time to move between them. But after a while, your fingers just know where to go.
Same with your brain. It becomes faster and more confident the more you practice using English without switching back and forth.
Coming up next, we'll talk about something that really helps with this process: repetition and immersion. That's what teaches your brain to stay in English mode longer. Okay, so we've talked about how the brain learns language and why switching between languages can slow us down. Now, let's look at something super important: repetition and immersion.
Yes, these two things are like fuel for your brain when learning English. Repetition helps your brain remember, and immersion helps your brain stay in English longer.
Let's start with repetition. Basically, when you hear or say something over and over again, your brain starts to recognize it faster. That's how we remember songs, right?
Exactly. If you hear the phrase, "What do you mean?" many times it becomes automatic. You don't need to think about each word, you just know it.
That's because repetition builds stronger neural pathways. Your brain says, "Oh, this is important. I've seen this before," and it starts to store that information in long-term memory.
So if you're learning English, don't be afraid to repeat the same things again and again. Repetition doesn't mean you're slow, it means you're training your brain.
Now, let's talk about immersion. This means surrounding yourself with English every day. Not just studying grammar, but living in the language.
Right. You don't have to travel to an English-speaking country to do this. You can listen to English podcasts, watch YouTube videos, change your phone settings to English, or follow English speakers on social media.
And the best part? When your brain sees or hears English all the time, it starts to think in English without you trying so hard.
It's like when you move to a new city. You get used to the streets, the shops, the signs. It becomes familiar. Immersion does the same thing for your brain with language.
And when you combine repetition and immersion, that's powerful. For example, if you watch the same short English video every day for a week, you'll understand more each time, and your brain starts predicting what's coming next.
That prediction is key. It means your brain is no longer translating. It's thinking ahead in English. That's how fluency starts to form.
So remember, don't just study English, live in English. Hear it, see it, repeat it. That's how you train your brain to think faster, smoother, and more confidently.
And you don't need hours. Even just 10 to 15 minutes of daily repetition and immersion can make a big difference over time.
Absolutely. It's about consistency, not perfection. And the more your brain is exposed to English, the more naturally you'll start thinking in it. So far, we've talked about how your brain learns language, how switching slows you down, and how repetition and immersion help. But now let's get to the heart of it: how thinking in English actually improves your fluency.
Yes, and this is such an exciting part. Fluency isn't just about speaking quickly. It's about speaking naturally, confidently, and without stopping to search for every word.
Exactly. When you think in English, your brain starts doing what native speakers do. It pulls out words and phrases automatically, without translating or pausing.
Let me give a simple example. Imagine you're in a shop and you want to say, "How much is this?" If you're thinking in your native language, you might stop, translate it in your head, then say it. That takes time and confidence.
But if you've trained your brain to think in English, that phrase just pops out. Quick, easy, natural. That's fluency in action.
And when that happens, your confidence goes up. You feel more relaxed when speaking. You're not worried about every little mistake. You're focused on communicating.
That's the key. Fluency is about flow. And thinking in English creates that flow. You stop overthinking and start responding more like a native speaker.
Another cool thing is that when you think in English, you begin to feel the language. You get used to how sentences are built, what sounds right, and what sounds strange.
That feeling is a sign that your brain is adapting. You're not just learning rules, you're absorbing the rhythm and style of English.
And remember, you don't need to speak perfectly to be fluent. Even native speakers pause or correct themselves. The real goal is to express yourself smoothly and naturally, and that happens faster when you think in English.
So if you want to improve your fluency, start by shifting your inner voice. Try thinking in English during daily routines, when you cook, walk, or plan your day.
It's a small change that leads to big results.
And coming up next, we'll share practical strategies to help you train your brain to think in English every day. No stress, no pressure. All right, it's time for the best part. How to actually train your brain to think in English. Because knowing the science is great, but now we need to take action.
Absolutely. So let's start simple. One of the easiest ways is this. Name things around you in English. Wherever you are, your room, your kitchen, outside, just say what you see in English.
Right. You look at your desk and say, "This is a pen. This is my laptop. I'm sitting on a chair." It seems basic, but it builds that habit of using English in real time.
And here's another powerful one. Speak your thoughts out loud in English, even if you're alone. For example, say I'm hungry. I think I'll make some tea. It's a little cold today.
It's like talking to yourself in English. And that's not weird. It's smart. You're helping your brain stay in English mode.
And if speaking feels too hard at first, you can also write your thoughts down. Keep a short daily journal in English. Just write a few sentences like, "Today I went to the market. I saw my friend. We talked about the weekend."
That's a great one. Writing helps your brain slow down and think more clearly in English. Over time, it gets easier and faster.
Next tip, ask yourself questions in English, then try to answer them. For example, what do I want to eat today? Then answer, I want rice and vegetables.
Exactly. You can even play a mini interview game with yourself. What's your favorite movie? What do you do on weekends? It's fun and useful.
Now let's talk about your phone. You look at it all day, right? So change your phone language settings to English. That way, you're reading and thinking in English more often.
And follow English-speaking creators on YouTube or social media. Watch short videos where people speak naturally. Try to repeat what they say or write down useful phrases.
Here's another one I love. Use English when you make decisions. Like when choosing clothes, should I wear the blue shirt or the white one? Make those little choices in English.
That's genius. It brings English into your real life, not just your study time.
Also, when you're stuck on a word, don't always go back to your native language. Try explaining it in simple English. For example, if you forget the word fridge, you can say the cold box where I keep food.
That's a key skill. Native speakers do it too. It keeps your brain thinking in English, even when you don't know every word.
And finally, make English fun. Use it with music, games, jokes, or by talking with a friend. The more relaxed and happy you feel, the easier it is to think in English.
So to sum it up, name things, speak your thoughts, ask yourself questions, write a journal, change your phone language, follow English content, explain things simply, and make it fun.
Yes, it's not about being perfect. It's about practicing a little every day until it becomes natural.
Coming up next, we'll answer a big question. Can anyone train their brain to think in English? Spoiler alert, it's a yes. But let's talk about why and how. Before we move into the next section, let's pause and talk about something important. The common struggles learners face when they try to think in English.
Yes, It's not always easy, and that's totally normal. One of the biggest struggles is that many learners feel stuck or slow when trying to form sentences in their heads.
That's usually because they're translating from their native language first, right? It takes time, and sometimes the grammar just doesn't fit.
Exactly. Another common struggle is lack of vocabulary. You want to think in English, but you don't know the right words yet, so your brain kind of freezes.
That can feel frustrating. And then there's the issue of self-doubt. Learners often ask themselves, am I thinking correctly? Or what if I make mistakes?
Yes, and that fear can stop people from even trying. But here's the truth. Mistakes are part of the process. You don't need to think perfectly. You just need to keep going.
Also, some learners say their mind goes blank when they try to think in English. That's usually because they haven't built the habit yet, or they're under pressure.
So if this happens to you, don't worry, it happens to everyone. The key is to start small and stay consistent. You'll build confidence with time.
Exactly. These struggles are not signs of failure. They're signs that your brain is learning something new. And that's a good thing.
So, be kind to yourself. Thinking in English is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. You're doing great just by trying.
So, Julia, now that we've talked about the science and the struggles, let's give our listeners something super practical. Simple exercises they can do every day to start thinking in English.
Love it. Let's keep it easy and fun. First exercise, the 1-minute talk. Pick a topic and talk in English for just 1 minute. It could be my favorite food, what I did today, or even what I see in my room.
That's a great one. And it's okay if you pause or make mistakes. The goal is to keep your brain in English for just 1 minute.
Exactly. Here's another one, the mirror exercise. Look in the mirror and describe your feelings or your plans for the day. Like, I'm feeling a little tired today, but I have a lot to do.
I love that. It helps you build confidence because you're practicing face-to-face with yourself.
Third one, mind labeling. As you move through your day, name things around you in English. For example, I'm opening the door. Now I'm brushing my teeth. This is my jacket.
It sounds simple, but it really works. You're training your brain to narrate your life in English, even for everyday actions.
Here's another fun one. Question of the day. Every morning, ask yourself one question in English, like, what do I want to eat today? Or what makes me happy? Then try to answer in English.
That builds your thinking muscle every single day. And for learners who like writing, daily journaling is powerful. Just write 3 to 5 sentences each evening in English. Nothing fancy, just real thoughts.
And the last one, 5 words a day. Learn 5 useful words or phrases each day, and then try to use them in a sentence, either in your head or out loud.
Simple, short, and effective. These small exercises, done consistently, help shift your brain into English mode. And that's where fluency begins.
So choose 1 or 2 exercises and make them part of your daily routine. You'll be amazed at how quickly your thinking starts to change.
Coming up next, we'll wrap it all up and share some final encouragement to keep you going on your English journey. Wow, Julia, we've covered so much today. The science, the challenges, and practical tips to help everyone start thinking in English.
Yes, Jason. Remember, thinking in English is a skill anyone can learn. It just takes time, patience, and daily practice.
If you keep trying, even just a little bit every day, you'll see progress. Your brain will get faster, your confidence will grow, and speaking English will feel more natural.
So don't give up. Every step forward is a step closer to your English goals.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep practicing, keep thinking in English, and we'll see you next time.